Hey everybody, Jason Rivera here for episode number 3 of Value Investing in the Car. Today it's going to be a little bit different. I want to do a mini book review of the single best book I've read all year. And I just finished it about 20 minutes ago, and I started listening to it immediately again, something I never ever do. That's how great the book is. Before I get to that, I'm on track. Well, I don't calculate exactly how many books I read every year. I just go by the amount of time I put into it. Last year and the year before, I read between 50 and 75 books. This year, I'm on track to read 50, and we're almost at the end of the year. I'm positive that I've done at least 50 now, including audiobooks, Kindle books, paperback books, hardcover, everything. Not including YouTube videos, of course, stuff like that. So, I read a lot, and I do that to learn a lot because I believe that I can improve in any way, and anybody can improve themselves in any fashion if they put in enough time to do it. So before I get to what the book is, why did I step down a little bit in the amount of books I read this year? Because last year and the year before, I felt like I spent too much time reading and not doing enough stuff. This year I wanted to do more stuff, implement, grow businesses, research companies, just get out and do more stuff, be more productive when it comes from an actual business sense, not just reading and listening to audiobooks, stuff like that. So that's why I'm down a little bit reading books this year compared to the last 2 years. But having said that, my productivity is way up. And I'll get to this in another video or post, at my end of the year post, about stuff I've accomplished this year, stuff I still need to accomplish, what I've learned, the best books I've read, stuff like that. But I wanted to highlight the single best book I've read this entire year, and that's why I kind of wanted to tell you how many books I've read. Out of 50 or more books that I read this year, this book, not only is it the best book I've read or listened to all year, but it's one of the best books I've ever read, period. And I knew, it's so good that I knew a quarter of the way through the book, it's an audiobook that I purchased through Audible. It's so good that I knew it was the best book of the year that I've read all year, and I was only a quarter of the way through it. That's how great this book was, how impactful it was. Actually, let me illustrate how impactful it was. Now that I'm building a team and working to grow my businesses in the best way possible, and having done some significant consulting work over the summer with a great leadership team who's done tens of millions of dollars in revenue, that experience combined with me building a team now for all the businesses I'm involved in has led me to kind of reevaluate everything I was doing and had planned to do kind of going forward. I realized while I was consulting that I wasn't building my businesses in the most efficient and best way possible, and that I had some significant deficiencies when it came to building a team. I've been involved in sports my entire life. I'm a dad. But when it comes to leading a business organization, I don't have a ton of real-world experience. So seeing that consulting, or seeing what I saw and learning what I learned while I was consulting, combined with me now building a team, has forced me to dig deeply and dive deeply into the world of leadership and how to become a better leader, how to become a better producer, all that kind of stuff. So, what is this book that helped not only with the leadership aspects, but also with the kind of changing the entire businesses and I'm in and trying to make them work more efficiently and better over the long term? And not only that, did it help me, or has it helped me realize I needed to change a bunch of stuff as I'm doing this, but as I was listening to this book just a couple days ago, I'm building an entire kind of strategy for all my businesses to go into 2018. And so we can do a lot better, do a lot more revenue, bring in a lot more cash flow, profitability, all that kind of stuff. Hire more team members, and just overall grow a lot better in 2018 than 2017, now that we're almost at the end of the year. So as I was listening to this book is so fantastic that while I'm building this strategy for myself and my team to work towards and work on in 2018, I literally changed probably half, or implemented double of the stuff that I had planned to kind of implement and talk about when I was going over the strategy with my team. Because I knew something was missing while I was building the strategy, but I didn't know what until I was reading and listening to this book. So what is this book? It's called Extreme Ownership: How U.S. Navy SEALs Lead and Win on the Battlefield and in Life, by ex-Navy SEALs, commanding officers and platoon leaders, Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. The book is essentially, and I first learned about this book from Tim Ferriss's Tools of Titans. One of the, I don't remember if it was a profile or he said one of the best books he read all year was, when his book was released, was this book, Extreme Ownership, which I believe released in 2015 or 2016. And he's become close friends and interviewed with Jocko Willink, again, ex-Navy SEAL commanding officer. Jocko Willink, I think he's interviewed on his podcast, and I believe he said they've become close friends since interviewing and stuff like that. So that's where I first learned about the book. And the book is essentially, it goes through some battle scenarios from a more strategic perspective and leadership perspective, because one of the authors was a platoon leader in the Navy SEALs, and one was the commanding officer of Task Unit Bruiser. Essentially, he was the commanding officer for several different teams in that entire unit. And one of his platoon leaders was Leif Babin, who is the co-author of this book. They go through battle scenarios that they went through and how that affects leadership, not only, and what the lessons they learned in terms of leadership for the battlefield, but they also, after they retired from the military, both of them, they started I guess it would be, they don't really talk about it too much specifically in the book, but I'm assuming it would be a leadership consulting group, is I guess what the term would be. They go into companies and help them formulate better leadership and strategy to take on their competitive, to take on the industry and become better leaders in their industry and their own company, and so they become more efficient, stuff like that. But they started a leadership consulting company, called Echelon Front, ECHELON Front, I believe is how it's spelled, if you're wanting to learn about that. So they learn these lessons in the SEALs, and the premise of this book is they go through some battle stories. Of course, some of the stuff changed, some of the names changed, some of the names are left out, stuff like that. But they go through what they didn't necessarily do right, what they could have done better, and what they did to implement going forward. So those mistakes, which literally, obviously, Navy SEALs could and did in some cases cost lives, so they wouldn't happen again. And they translate those lessons they learned and the stories they tell from the battlefield in Iraq to the business world, and how you can improve not only yourself but your company, your personal leadership, how you make strategic decisions, how you think about strategy, stuff like that. And that fits right in with a lot of other stuff I've been learning right now from Jay Abraham on strategy and marketing and stuff like that. So it goes very hand in hand. But the main point that I wanted to get across is that if you want to become a better leader, better business person, better husband, possibly better wife, better parent, better entrepreneur, whatever the case may be, there are lessons in this book that you can apply to everyday life, to any life, on an everyday basis that will help you become not only a better person, but a better business person, better entrepreneur. And again, this book was so fantastic. I've rarely listened to books over again. I've listened, some other examples of books I've listened over again this year were three of Grant Cardone's books, 10X Rule 4 times, Be Obsessed or Be Average 4 times, and Sell or Be Sold twice, and Angela Duckworth's Grit twice, and now this book twice. So the list of books I listen to over again is very rare, and I never listen to books once I finish it. Do I listen to a book right away again right after that? So that again is how fantastic this book is. I highly recommend it. Again, to anyone. I think the lessons in this book can benefit just about anyone if you have the right mindset to take extreme ownership of your life, your decisions, and everything involved in your life and your decisions. That's the kind of the basic premise, is you taking extreme ownership, meaning even if everything's not necessarily your fault, ultimately it's your fault, and you could have done something to change the outcome, to change your reaction, to change the other person's outcome or reaction, whatever. There's always a way to take extreme ownership of everything you're doing and flip it around. One example from the book was they were getting a lot of questions from their superiors about doing paperwork and just kind of some, not menial stuff, but stuff they didn't want to be doing. Paperwork. Navy SEALs want to be on the battlefield. They want to be battling. They don't want to be and killing bad guys. They don't want to be doing paperwork. But as commanding officers, they had to fill out paperwork to their commanding officers, to their higher ups, to let them know what they were doing, because they weren't necessarily on the ground with them. And one of the Leif Babin, I believe it was, came into his commanding officer, which was Jocko Willink's office at one point, and was just pissed and didn't understand why they had to do all this paperwork. Why couldn't they just go to battle and kill the bad guys? And after talking for a bit, Jocko said to Leif that, and this is an example of extreme ownership, he said that we're not doing, if they're asking so many questions and taking up so much of our time, we are not giving them enough information. We are not giving them enough paperwork. We are not showing them enough to make them trust us. So his plan to get them to trust them was to do more detailed paperwork, and to have the actual higher ups in the Navy SEALs come and view what they were doing on a daily basis. And it led not only to them getting more operations done in a faster, efficient way, but it led to them seeing some obstacles that could have led to potential deaths. Another example is there was friendly fire, which should never happen. You of course don't want to be, American soldiers don't want to be shooting other American soldiers. So in this case, there was some fog of war, there was some confusion, and a Navy SEAL got hurt. I believe he got hurt. I don't think he got killed in this case. But it was the first time there was friendly fire between Navy SEAL units since, I believe, they said the Vietnam War. And even though it wasn't necessarily his fault, Jocko Willink, the actual commanding officer of this entire unit, it wasn't his fault. He said 100% when they went into the meeting, even though it could have cost him his career in the Navy SEALs, he could have got fired for this. He said 100% this is my fault. I didn't do a good enough job telling everybody what they should be doing, communicating things, telling everybody what they needed to communicate. This is 100% my fault. If anybody's going to get fired, it's going to be me. Those are two quick examples of extreme ownership. And again, I highly recommend this book to everybody. Best book I've read all year. One of the best books I've read in a long time, actually, now that I think about it. And yeah, again, I cannot recommend it highly enough to anybody. the lessons in this book can help you no matter what you're doing, no matter what point you are in your life. I believe these lessons can help you no matter what. So hope you enjoy this mini book review of Extreme Ownership in episode 3 of Value Investing in the Car. If you have any comments or questions about this book or this topic, or you've read this book and you think it was great or you think it was crap, let me know in the comments below. Subscribe, like, love, all that kind of stuff. I really appreciate it, and I hope this helps you find an extremely fantastic book to read or listen to, and I hope it can change kind of your outlook on things or change kind of your strategy or what you're doing like it did for me. I'll talk to you again soon. Have a great Christmas if I don't talk to you before then. Have a great holiday season. If you don't celebrate Christmas around the world, wherever you're watching from, have a great holiday season. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye.